Back to the intros again. Hello
Back.
to you, beautiful souls. It's a
You
little bit too loud.
almost 2,000, 1,780 something, I think, last time we checked. And growing. Hiya.
I think that's important to just mention. You guys
No,
are amazing.
no, don't mention.
But because YouTube is so invasive in your privacy, we see our analytics, and most of you are not actually subscribed, but are listening.
Is that true, or are you just memeing like what other YouTube
Bruh,
people say?
doesn't matter. Don't expose.
Subscribe.
So
Push
just-
the bell.
Just
click the
press
likes.
subscribe. It'll really
Click
help
the
us out.
dislikes. We won't be able to tell anymore.
Yeah, hit the dislikes, but you know what? Subscribe and comment. Comment is a big one now. So we're putting this out there, and you can put a little bit out there to us, and we'll have this I don't even know what to call it, but this relationship where we don't know you, but you know us. It's odd.
Leave comments. We'll
Yeah.
know you a little bit.
This was a fucking amazing episode
Big time.
with Dr. Andrew Ferber. We've been trying to get him on for 6 months.
Yeah. No,
It's our fault.
we had him, and we had technical difficulties, and the day of we had to cancel. But he was super cool about it. But
Right.
like you'll see in the podcast, he is like so cool. He's so chill. He's so like not. I don't know how to explain it. Like
He's
we
the
talked about-
psychotherapist you envision when you're going to psychotherapy.
He's a psychiatrist. He has educations. I don't know what to say, but like he's
Credentials up to the roof, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the guy. I don't even want to say met Osho. The guy spent time with Osho.
Years.
Knew Ramdas.
Yeah.
Spent a good like almost like more decades with one of Osho's students, disciples. I don't know what
Yeah.
to call him. That he, without blinking, said was also enlightened. Like, you know, we talked about that too. Like, what does that word even mean? But like, you know, like some people got vibes.
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be plugged in? That red thing?
No, it's all good.
Okay. I'm just
But yeah, he's an embodiment of what we talk about on this podcast. You know?
literally, and yeah, he's doing great work
Yeah.
with ketamine therapy, and he's
Yes,
the way he advocates it, and
we know him through Charles Patty. He was on our podcast once or twice, maybe just
just once
Just
so
once.
far. Great
Yeah.
podcast as well. We should have checked the number actually. That was a good one.
yeah. Well, so they're in Florida and they're doing ketamine assisted therapy, and the results speak for itself. Apparently, it's phenomenal and it's really helping people. And you can just hear from the way this guy carries himself and talks about himself and talks of himself and his work that it's working. Whatever they're doing over there, there is a shift, and it's exciting to see and in some sense be a part of by helping them get the message out. But we won't say too much more, but you guys listen to this episode, you're going to love it. Do you know the number?
Yeah, the Charles Patty one was number 68.
68. Yeah.
So yeah,
if you're not
check that one out after or before.
yeah.
But
If you're not Caleb, go back and check it out.
if you're we should just drop his name at the end of every intro at this point.
And
Thanks, man. We appreciate the support, and we love your love.
Yes.
And yeah,
do the likes, share, subscribe, do it all.
anybody who isn't Caleb, also enjoy.
No,
And,
fuck you. I'm just kidding. All right, everyone. Peace and love. Enjoy.
Stay curious. Wow. Curious.
What's up, beautiful people? I'm Nathaniel Pearl,
And I'm Sam Sheva.
and welcome to Curious Chimps Podcast, a show where we explore the infinite complexities of the human experience.
We do not endorse anything illegal, so please consult doctors, do your research, and for the love of all that is holy, be safe. All right, let's talk about drugs.
Curious Chimps. Curious Chimps.
I guess we'll just start, man. So, thanks for joining us, Mr. Dr. Ferber, Chi-Chi, as you said. I would love to get into the background of that name. I didn't know you were like a Swami, so that's really fascinating. So I have a little bit of background in yoga. I was trained in the Shivananda lineage. So I definitely want to get into that at some point. But if you if you would be so kind as to just introduce yourself. You can, in short or in long, just explain your background and what you're doing and all that good stuff.
Are you ready?
Ready, set, go.
Ready.
Yeah. Ready as we'll ever be.
I'm Bodhicitta, man.
Yes.
I am what I am, what I am. Whatever you see is your dream of me. Wake up and see what we am.
I love it.
I'm 87 years old. I've been a shrink for 63 years. I've been a sannyasin, a disciple of Osho, since 1976. So I've been a meditator for 50 years. I've lived in ashrams in the Himalayas and the ranch in Oregon for over 20 years. I've been in 47 countries, healed people, and taught meditation on 5 continents. I'm not enlightened, perhaps, but I'm a very wise old fart. I still am the chief medical officer in 2 different clinics, one of which I think is as good as any ketamine clinic anywhere. I know you guys are into psychedelics. I had my first acid trip when I was a medical student in 1957.
Oh, wow. Damn.
The good stuff.
Yeah, that's the good stuff.
It was at the New York Psychiatric Institute. And Sandoz had sent this stuff over saying, you guys check it out. We're not sure what it does. So they would put us in a room and surround us with staff and pay us money.
Wow.
And I remember I took this little glass of stuff and I said, hey, nothing's happening. And then about 15 minutes later, I looked down at my leg and there was something on the pants. I said, go away. It flew away. I said, oh, wow, here we go. Then they gave me a machine to line up to see how good my depth perception was, where you grab 2 handles and make the 2 things get. And before I knew it, I was flying a fighter plane in World War II.
Okay.
That's
And
awesome.
and it was weird that when I was actually on the trip, it all seemed real. And yet there was something watching it that knew that the part of me that knew it was real, I also knew it wasn't real. Like the guys who were in the room with me would all turn into my grandfather. Literally their faces would morph immediately, except for this one gay Irish American nurse who turned into a leprechaun. And I didn't get upset about any of this. It was, that's just how, that was what was happening. And at the depth of it, there was me and my mother in a little round boat in a lake. And there was beautiful woods all around, but no other people. The only way out of the lake was through 2 streams, which I could control by either stuffing up my nose or letting my nose run. And I realized later that that's me in the womb.
Mhm.
And that my whole life has been looking to recreate that energy.
Wow.
So that's
This
my
was
first trip story.
you remember it so clearly. Like, do you have a good memory, or did it just like really imprint itself? It's like, was this LSD as well? Like, what was the substance?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
LSD.
It's in such detail. Like, is this something you've kind of recalled slowly over time since it happened, or did it just was it just so vivid and so kind of clear in your mind ever since?
I don't know. It's always been clear. I don't have a cluttered memory. It's like I remember critical events, and they're like a metaphor or a summation of lots of little pieces, and I don't bother remembering the details.
That's a good life hack for integration.
Yeah.
Just kind of focusing on what's being given to you brightly, and the rest just kind of falls away.
But I want to ask you, after this LSD experience, how did that shift your perspective of life and your practice and your direction? Did it inspire you to change a direction or change course or have a different intention?
I don't know.
Hmm.
Two of my best friends also did it, the guys in medical school with me. And I could see from their trips kind of an essential feature of their character that they hadn't quite seen yet. One of them was really frightened by it and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have always, since I was about 4, is my earliest memory of it, been trying to figure it all out. My dad was a urologist. He was a second generation American, only child. And he said to me, Andy, I don't know what it's all about. I'm just imitating the other guys to get by. If you ever figure it out, let me know. And he protected me from people trying to hypnotize me, telling me what's right and wrong and stuff like that. So my whole life I've been trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's why I went into psychiatry, because back in the 60s, psychoanalysis was where everybody thought it was at. I had 8 years of 5 times a week psychoanalysis with the head of the training committee of the New York Psychoanalytic. Her name was Ruth Loveland, a really lovely woman, great name. It helped a little bit. By the time, late 60s, I had already gotten disillusioned with straight culture, and I was the youngest associate professor in my medical school. I started being an early hippie, started smoking marijuana around 1967. My first rock concert was at Fillmore East with Santana and Dr. John. And, I just kept seeing that there was more and more that I didn't understand. Mike, I put this shirt on.
No, nothing. Yeah. It's a great shirt.
I wonder. Oh, please.
By the time I was in my mid-30s, 1972, The Limits to Growth came out. You know what The Limits to Growth is?
I'm not familiar.
No.
The Limits to Growth was a study commissioned by the Club of Rome, 100 leading European intellectuals and businessmen. They got Jay Forrester, the best computer scientists at MIT, to do a projection of what's going to happen to mankind in the next couple hundred years. And what The Limits to Growth said was, if mankind doesn't go from an expanding to a steady state species by the year 2000, which means the population growth has got to level out, the use of non-renewable resources has got to level out, the amount of pollution and climate crap that we produce has got to level out, the use of arable land, which we're using in a way that ruins it, so you can't grow any more food on it. If we don't come to a steady state, conscious, balanced thing, we go into overshoot and collapse mode, which means hundreds of millions, possibly billions of people are going to die horrible deaths while we fight with each other for the few remaining resources. Well, this upset me. I bought 500 copies of the book. I gave it to every intelligent person I knew. And by that time, I knew Nobel Prize winners and other professors and all this. Then I got really upset. because 90% of them blew it off. They said, what do computers smell? They didn't get it. Just last year, a woman at Harvard and another one at Yale did a rerun of the original data and said that the predictions feeding in contemporary data, if anything, were too conservative, that things are going downhill possibly slightly faster than the original predictions, and that we have maybe 10 years to either figure it out how to do it so that it's balanced and in charge, or if we leave it up to the natural forces, we're really screwed. Anyhow, that was the turning point in my life. That I saw I didn't want this kind of world for my children and my grandchildren and everybody else. I started really getting into meditation. And I went into a retreat for 2 weeks and I wrote my own version of this called Balancing Man on Finite Earth, where it came to me that the only solution is to become more conscious. We need a more conscious humanity, that the way the world is fucked up is because of how much we're still all killer monkeys. We're not just curious chimps. We follow the chimp rules of our gang has got one leader and he can fuck everybody he wants. And then there are other ones who have to be in their pecking order. And our gang of chimps owns this part of the forest. And if we make ourselves strong enough, then we can push away the other chimps, kill their males, take their stuff, and enslave their females and children. And that's the last 5,000 years of human history. And possibly it's since we stopped being matriarchal little societies where nobody knew who the father was. Everybody was an uncle because everybody made love to everybody else. But once you get the patriarchal, hierarchical, male dominant societies coming in where we own private property and we own the women, and the big guy who nobody's ever seen delegates the power to a few old white men who run the gang. That's the old man. That's what every society, whether it's Indian or Chinese or Western, has been doing for the past 5,000 years. And is still. We have to change or we're going to perish. So that was a big turning point in my life to realize that.
Yeah.
And when I got to look into the different enlightened guys, Osho was clearest, where he said, change has got to be person by person. We got to do it first. That led me to become a disciple in 1976. My first meeting with him, I looked at him, he looked at me. I felt like I'd known him forever. I burst into tears and laughter. I crawled across the floor, I touched his foot. He said, come closer, Bodhicitta, touch the other foot. I've been waiting for you. He touches me on the forehead, and they're like 3 explosions of light inside my being. And I knew in an instant that everything I thought I was like a postage stamp on this huge envelope. That whatever I thought was love was a cupful in the ocean, and it was all over forever. I looked up at him. He says, how long are you here for? I said, my family, the government of India, state of New York will think 4 weeks. But if you've got any other ideas, let me know. I'll take care of the details. He laughs. He says, now neither the state, nor the government, nor the family have any control over you. You're serving a higher power. Then he says, have you done any groups in the West? I said, I did all the groups in the West. And he laughs again. He said, anybody who's connected with therapy, psychoanalysis, Gestalt, the group movement, is doing my work. all of that awakens a thirst that only I can satisfy. And I said, I love you so much. And he said, eat me, drink me, breathe me, nourish yourself. You're part of my family. So I haven't looked back for a second in the 46 years since then.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's intense, man. Like I've heard little stories here and there similarly, and it's such a powerful experience. It's something that anyone who's listening, even half listening to something like that, they yearn for something similar, you know, to be clarified so much, to be distilled in an instant, and to be so sure of where to go next, you know, like that's amazing. And I'm happy for you, because it just, like, you know, we admire the work you're doing now, and it's cool to hear kind of the seeds, you know, like where it all came from. So that's really amazing. I wonder, so when you had that that LSD trip in med school, it was kind of like this planting of a seed for, like, you were alluding to it, like it's kind of like the first time you met the observer in a way, or felt the observer, like that effect, you know, that meditative experience of kind of having that space between the experience and the experiencer, or maybe kind of no space, kind of realizing the melding, and you're this kind of third thing, however you want to interpret it, you know, like you said. None of us are enlightened here.
I've seen at least 20,000 patients and followed a few thousand other sannyasins, because I've not got that kind of head. And I've come to realize that you can conceptualize the forces that make us do what we do in three big bugs. The first one is your biology, your animal nature that you can't deny. And every traditional society and religion tries to suppress and channel the animal nature that can't be ignored. The second big bag is what you could call psychosocial influences. The whole dream hypnosis that every society has that they call reality. Like, you look back 500 years where the dream of reality was the Catholic Church's version of heaven and hell, and there were witches, and everybody believed that stuff. Went to public stonings, witch trials, things like that. If you go back 5,000 years, the belief was when you died, you went someplace, and you could, if you were rich enough, you took your wife and your servants and your horses. So you killed them all when you died, put them in a pyramid, because we're all going to go someplace, right? The more you look at the dream of another society, you say, wow, that's fucking crazy. But every society's got this hypnosis. The one that we're in currently is called science and rationality. So the essence of that is that if you can't put a label on it and you can't measure it, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's almost like overcompensating the other way, you know? We talk about history like, oh, those idiots, and then we're just kind of trying so hard to grab onto this material, and we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
So the third big set of forces is the combination of the unknown and the unknowable. the mystery of what actually is. And this is what has always drawn people into psychedelics and authentic religious search. That there's something in everybody that knows there's more to it than I've been taught or told to believe.
Yeah.
And you know, that's been my gift and curse, is that there's something in me that I've always trusted that says, go there, but forget about that. I almost, for instance, I got kicked out of Hebrew school when I was 12 because I locked the teacher out of the door and said, I'm not letting you in here until you stop lying to us. They didn't appreciate it.
No, definitely not.
And I've been getting in trouble for doing essentially that, bringing truth to power my whole life.
Bringing truth to power. It's it makes me think of how you were talking about your father earlier, and it's like it was instilled in you in a way, like we've talked about it a lot on the podcast in the past, but like in a lot of ways you were your own master. You know, you're always looking for the answers in a kind of honest and experienced way, even though you're talking about that kind of that void or that abyss that is like kind of maybe even beyond experience. But that sounds like braggadocious, you know, but like the truth is that it makes you so humble to be like, I'm just going to learn. I'm actually going to learn. You're not learning necessarily through a book or through a teacher. Those things are very powerful facilitators, but you always know there's more. Like you said, you always know you're being lied to. You always smell the walls of the story, you know, the box, and you're trying to think outside the box, as it were. So I really resonate with you when you say it's like a gift and a curse, because you're always finding new answers and you always feel like you're growing, but you always see the edge move out further and further every time you get new information, and any new answer like spawns 15 new questions, you know. So you realize it's infinite, and then that accepting that becomes the game.
Okay, so you're still stuck with the classic Jewish mind that there's answers. I come from, you know, my father's people were born, I think it's the region where Ukraine and Poland are together, where was the Hasid Jews were and stuff like that. They came over around 1890, and they didn't talk about it. So, but I learned about it from Isaac Bashevis Singer. Did you ever hear him?
No.
He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1978. And he talked about, he was born in that part of the Pale.
Yeah.
And he emigrated to America in 1940 or 39. His brother brought him over to avoid Hitler. And all his heroes embody this searching young Hasid who knows that the ancient tradition has got some wisdom in it, but the baggage of all the habits make it impossible. On the other hand, what is called reality in contemporary society, whether it was American or European, is clearly insane. So all his heroes are asking, what's it all about? How do I find it? The two books I enjoyed the most, one is called The Family Moscat, which takes you through 2 generations from to Warsaw, all the way up to World War II to America. And then Shadows on the Hudson, which is set on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, where I grew up in the 40s. And there's something in us that keeps looking. But the main Jewish problem is we have to put labels on everything. That the original sin is eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge, which is the mind. It means you got to figure it out. You got to make a theory out of it. And that's why we produce Marx and Einstein and Freud.
Yeah.
And why people hate us and kill us every place. Because we keep trying to figure it out and put labels on it.
Mm.
And what I finally learned in my meditation is that relax, dude.
Yeah.
If there's anything to know, it'll come to you. You can't figure it out.
Exactly.
And trying to figure it out and think about it and make a different set of hypotheses in your head is the problem after a certain point.
That's the common but that's the common realization when someone has a breakthrough psychedelic experience, is that there is no more labels and categories and boxes to contain this in, and it's really just this state of presence and bliss and just this greater understanding, but without intellectualizing it. It's just a knowing. And that's why I think the psychedelic experience is so powerful for the people of this time specifically, because we're so caught up in that muscle of that egoic mind, labeling and figuring everything out and trying to categorize everything. So we kind of need like this removal in a sense, and just to show you, hey, like your realization, just dude, relax. It's right there, you know? And that's why I see the power in psychedelic therapy and medicine, is because it does that, you know? It really starts to put you on the path of that greater understanding of knowing the unknowing, the knowing of nothing, you know? It's hard. There's no words for it, but it's that feeling.
That kind of U-turn, you know, like it's like it was always you. It was you all along. Like you're digging for the diamond, but it's the shovel that you wanted. Like that whole inverted until there's nothing left. Like it's just here now.
I've had the privilege and blessing to be with a lot of really interesting people. One of them was Ram Dass. He came to my house back in the early 70s, and we talked and stuff. Do you remember his book, Be Here Now?
Mm-hmm.
The essence of what he says in there is, I went on all the trips you could imagine. I've taken everything I could find. And when I came down, I was the same old schmuck. So
that's the greatest realization.
And that's what brought him to India to search out Neem Karoli Baba, his guru. Now, fast forward to now. The root cause of all suffering is identification. What that means is that you act as if you are your thoughts, impulses, feelings, and stuff. So what does it mean when the Buddha says from the very beginning, all beings are Buddhas, that we're all enlightened already? What's getting in the way? What does this identification mean? Well, all animals, it's not a quick fix, because all animals have an idea of self. As soon as you can see a creature, even if it's a fish or a bird, and especially a mammal, it knows I'm me and that's my mommy, and you're my species, and we're the same flock or tribe or herd, and those are not us. So we can either eat them or run away from them because they'll eat us, you know. So the idea of self is hardwired so deeply biologically that you can't just say, oh, I'll get rid of the idea. It's only by allowing this vast knowing without an object to happen. You can't do it. And this is where the people I know in psychedelics and psychotherapy, every place is stuck, is they want to do it rather than relax and let it happen and realize you can't do it. that you're doing itself is the problem.
Yeah, I had a friend once, he said, it sounds like you're trying to put a key in the hole, you know, like to enlightenment. And then as soon as you turn the key, you realize there's no door. You know, like it's like you just feel like an idiot. And it sounds like exactly what you're describing. It's like we're using the ego to try to bypass the ego. You know, we have this self-preservation, this sense of self, and it becomes this, like you said, it's biologically hardwired. We have like a psychic proprioception almost. Like it's we need it. And all this intellectualization just seems to act as like a way to blow your mind. And psychedelics, any kind of cacophony, you know, like these like crazy conversations, connecting with people, especially people like Osho or Ramdas, who are just kind of vibing. They almost become like coaches. You know, it's like, look what's possible. You know, I've broken my brain. I'm insane now. Like, and look how functional and happy I am. Or look at the presence I have, the thing I can give you. It starts feeding. It almost starts overfeeding the intellect, and the intellect explodes. And then you're just left with the experience. And call it questions or answers, but you're left with the experience, which is all there is, all there ever was.
So what came to me, crystallized just yesterday in preparation for this, was some new words on these eternal teachings, that we have active blocks that prevent us from being one with this enormous river of love and energy that's always there. The active blocks are ideas, are thoughts, the very concept of self that we were talking about. It's not what we usually talk about. Our ideas are really second level ideas about ideas, but it's these primitive identifications that one has to let go of. Like depression is an idea that the organism has, that what I need to survive isn't around, so I have to block the flow of love through me, the flow of energy. Everybody who isn't enlightened is more or less depressed. What's called normal is about 50%. And what I love about ketamine and my work as a ketamine therapist is that in some way it allows temporarily to unblock your active blocking of the flow of love. So almost every patient reports that they love themselves more, they allow others to love themselves more, and they let go of trauma memories, which are another active block to the flow of the mysterious love. And ketamine is, at least from what I can see, different than psilocybin, LSD, that class of drugs, or MDMA, in this particular property of temporarily unblocking your active blocking. And you feel this more love because the energy that you're using to make the block is all of a sudden available to you. It's more of a dynamic model than a mechanical one. It's not that a block is something that you remove like a door, but it's more like the energy is being used to not let something that wants to happen. And when you stop that, then it starts to happen, and the energy that you were using to stop it also comes. So I try and urge every patient and everybody I've ever done trips with to learn to meditate, that whatever your trip is, it's a movie in your own mind. And if you get identified with it, you're going to get stuck there.
Yeah.
Whether you think you're Jesus or an extraterrestrial, it doesn't matter. That's just a new set of thoughts.
Exactly.
You just watch it it'll self-correct. The more you can relax and watch it, you move on.
I love that. It'll self-correct. Like I really feel what you're feeling. Like just even in a simple meditation practice, the less you touch it, the more it just gives you what you need. The more it just kind of morphs into, and I don't even know what I'm talking about, like and I wonder if like, I don't understand it like pharmacologically or neurologically, but like, it sounds like it's a chemical version of relax, dude. Like you said before, it's like, it's shutting down, like you said, it's not this mechanical like removing of blockages, but it's more like that energy needs to go somewhere else. So it's like kind of instantaneously like sublimated into the things wherever it needs to go. And that sounds amazing. Like I've tried a lot of different drugs. I've tried ketamine as well, but not in a therapeutic setting or even kind of, I would say, ceremonial setting. I definitely didn't know much about meditation at the time. And you're making me kind of want to revisit it. It sounds like medicine, it sounds like it can be very powerful.
The mysterious ocean or river of energy that we call the enlightened beings is always available. So it's opening oneself up to let the sun shine in. It's not that you have to do it or get it. Now, what this has to do with what you just said, in the classic literature, they talk about set and setting.
Mm-hmm.
When you put that a little more powerfully, the oldest human profession is the priest healer. Somebody who has a ceremony with you to allow this mysterious divine force to heal and transform you. That's the context within which all psychedelic medicine and all psychedelics originated. Every society was looking for substances to facilitate the mysterious communion between the priest healer and the seeker. If you just go off by yourself and you only want to have a trip, that's pretty much what you get, because that was your set, that was your intention. If you want deep down to transform and expand, that's a very different set. The setting means what's the energy of the situation. Now, in our current materialist model, we ignore that it's not how much your doctor or your priest or your healer knows, or what rituals they do, or what medicine they give you. It's how evolved their being is that sets the limit on how much energy can come to heal us in this communion. And yet every kid knows how big a being, how much love, how vast a person they're with.
Yeah.
So I would urge your friends, my friends, whoever's listening, to trust your gut. If you're with somebody who feels good to be healed by them or to trip with them, good. If it doesn't feel right, get out of there.
Yes.
No matter how many credentials or diplomas or whatever the being has got, if you can't fake what you are. And this is what I try and teach everybody, that each of us is in charge of our life. And the more authentic you are, the more you tune in to what's right for me now, the more you trust it, the more you empower yourself, the better it'll go. We've been brought up not to trust ourselves, to follow rules. And now it's really confusing because there's so many different sets of rules and so many people who say they're the authority that your head is full of my mother said this, my father said this, the rabbi said this, the priest said that, Dr. Oz said that, the politician said that. We don't, you can't think your way through it anymore. And that's a good thing.
And that's
This brings me back to
love it.
your point about meditation. And I told this to Sam. I said this on the podcast before, but I've been doing ayahuasca ceremonies for quite some time now. And then about 2 years into my practice with ayahuasca, I did my first Vipassana, the 10-day silent retreat for meditation. And the realization I had after that was just how to become that vessel of receiving without interrupting or grabbing or, making it mine, just allowing it to flow through with that equanimous mind, that knowing whatever's coming is going and I don't need to touch it. And after that, my ayahuasca experiences have radically changed to the point where I felt like it was like a prerequisite that learning to meditate should be step one before going into the psychedelic space. It would be so much more valuable for you to carry it forward and to grasp deeper understanding, as if you're able to create that space for the experience to just play out, like you were saying, and not try to intervene and say and identify and pull and try to bring something back, but allow it to go through. I wanted to ask you is, if someone's coming to you for a ketamine therapy treatment, do you encourage the meditation beforehand, or is it something that you use more as an integrative part for after the experiences?
I would make it clear to everybody, meditation is 24/7. It's a way of living. All the practices are to help you relax and allow it. And the two practices I share with everybody, though I make it clear these are not the only ones, but they got a 2,000-year track, is to be aware of your breath all the time. All the time.
Mm-hmm.
You'll forget hundreds of thousands of times. That means you've gotten re-identified with the thoughts or whatever's going on. Be aware of your breath all the time. That's like the radar that's bringing the plane in through the fog. And the top end of the practice is to remember that every thought, every feeling, every concept is a movie in my mind called me, that each one of us is making this incredible movie in real time. If you can watch that movie like you're the audience, and we've all had so much experience these days of being an audience between the television and the movies and stuff like that, just slip into audience mode. That's the essence of all techniques in meditation for the last 10,000 years, that you're the watcher, the witness, and not the object. And you can't do it harder, either one of these things. They're both let goes. They're both relaxations.
That's really well said. Like, I feel like that's the essence of bad trips, sort of, like in life or in psychedelics, like this. You can't do it harder. Like you're trying, you're forcing it. You're like, oh no, I need to not feel this, or I need to think my way out of that. And it, for me personally, because I feel my mind can be incessant, and I literally just it's like a treadmill, and I get exhausted, and then I'm forced essentially to be in that space that you're talking about. And I'm just lucky. I'm glad that I have some idea about, Buddhism or yoga or something. And I have these, again, intellectualizations, but, keys to that door that was never there, so to speak. You get these ideas. Oh yeah, sorry, his dog is just weeping for some reason. And I mean, it's, however you get there, who cares, Like Wim Hof says, like, I don't care if you breathe through your mouth or your nose, just breathe, motherfucker. Like, just let it in. and it's, I love that attitude, because it's like it's like that whole, it's like a means to an end way of thinking. It's like all roads lead to Rome, however you want to put it.
Yeah.
And it's difficult sometimes to, well, I mean, it's always difficult. It's like you said, you know, it's like a curse and a gift, but it's the fact that it's 24/7, like you said, you know, like when you go a little bit deeper into things like yoga and they start talking about taking your practice off the mat, you know, even Neem Karoli Baba, like, I think I'm thinking of the right person. He was pretty famously like not like physically healthy, you know, like he didn't care about doing asana or something. Like he was just like a jnani, like he was very deep into the philosophy and nothing else really mattered. I'm not sure. I don't know much about him, but it's just, it's never what you think it looks like. It's always what you need in the moment, and however you are able to let go, that's how you get there. And it just is after, you know, like it was always there.
I'm at a point where I hear all the enlightened teachers saying the same thing, with slightly different language.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it came to me a few months ago. I have 3 little videos on YouTube called 5 Stars for Being Here Now, which is answering the question of what should I do now? How to answer any question that anybody has got for themselves. How to get out of your head into your horror and get the answer to the question. Should I smoke this joint? Should I go out with this girl? Should I move to California? Should I kill myself? No matter how big or how small a question, you know, there's a wisdom in you that knows. So then the question is, how do you get to your own inner wisdom?
I gotta watch
it
that.
It's a great.
You know, there's 3 9-minute videos. There's the actual practice, explanations, and a deeper look, because they're really tricky. They embody the practices of all major traditions in a 5-minute piece. You don't have to think about it, you just do it. I'll show you. The first one is remember who you are. Not labels, but just embody yourself. The second one is to be aware of your breath going down to the root. Just be aware of the breath. The third one is in the left side of the heart. Feel that you're one with everything, that you're just a wave in this vast network of energies, this vast ocean of existence. You're a node, just a wave in it. The fourth one on the right side of the heart is to remember that everything that you experience, you're not it. You're that which is aware of the experience. But if you can be aware of a piece of it, that's not you. That's still experience, but not the. And then the 5th star, you put your attention in your horror and you ask yourself any question. Do it now. Go into your horror and ask yourself any question. So that's it.
That's perfect.
It's yeah.
And the tricky part of that, the first is the whole Advaita Ramana Maharshi Muji tradition of who am I? Embody yourself. Just the second one, being aware of the breath, is the whole tantric tradition of being the witness of whatever practice you're doing. The one of being one with everything, the third star, is the path of love. That God is within me and without me. That I am one with existence. The 4th star on the right side is the path of meditation. Essential Buddhism, the path of negativity. Neti neti, that whatever you know, that's not it. And by that time, you're more or less present. You get out in the horror. And this is the mystery. It somehow tunes in on the flow of energy through you and gives you the right answer. It's that same thing that the Omiura bidigital O-ring or classic Ayurvedic or Chinese medicine, they're all tapping the flow of energy through a person. And that looking in the horror somehow does that too.
It's
Thank you for letting me share that with you guys and with the other listeners.
Thank you, man.
I think
that was
yeah,
awesome.
I think they're gonna take something very valuable from that, and we did. I did. So thank you.
Yeah, I guess it depends what you asked as well, but the technique itself is so familiar.
I had no question.
Yeah. you were just
I was just space. I was just trying to, I wasn't even, there was just nothing arise, so I just allowed it.
That's nice. I really did see a lot of, I really did feel familiar, that like this grounding at the beginning, but it's such a genius rapid step of like grounding, being in your body. Who are you without all the labels? Who are you really? What are you almost? And then immediately after that, like you said, kind of grounding, like establishing that you're everything and that you're nothing. Because the nothing without the everything can be nihilistic, and the everything without the nothing can be an abyss. You know, it can be like directionless or too passive. So again, I don't want to chew on it all intellectually, but it's just my way. And I really see like it cuts quick and cuts deep to this intuition. Yeah. And then if you're just listening, it reminds me of like when people say flip a coin, you know, and then you know what you wanted for real, no matter what the coin says, you know, like it's just a trick to kind of force your intuition. Now that the choice is made, what choice did you really want? It's that same feeling of like, I just know, but shut it all down first, you know, get like unwind, and then ask the question. And like the answer just kind of was there before you finished thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's it's a lot. It's a lot in a small package.
But this brings me into the therapeutic setting, because I'm sure you've 20,000 patients, you've seen it all, but how do you incorporate these deep understandings in someone who's never tapped into these doors or open these doors, and then they come to you somewhat broken? I guess my question is, then through the screening, how do you know how to approach someone, whether they're ready for ketamine, or obviously it's a decision that they feel that arises, but like what's like the step-by-step process and how to get someone through these kind of experiences?
There's what I call intention, is prior to thought. That everybody has authentic intentions. And I ask people, how'd you get the idea? How did it come to you to take ketamine? And during the story, there's almost always, like 98% of the time, a moment where they go and they make a gesture that brings out energy from the heart. I can feel a lot of energies where I know they're authentic. I'm not interested in the story. I'm interested in whether there's an authentic intention.
Yeah.
I make it clear to everybody when they come in, my understanding is that you're in charge of your life. And we're here to give you whatever tools we can to share with you so that you can fulfill your own destiny. You're not a broken machine that we're fixing or a dumb animal. You know, the doctor doesn't know best. I'm here to help you find the knowing that you know best. And my genius is I'm able to put in plain language that fits whoever is in front of me the understanding. Almost everybody gets it. Have you ever heard of Sadhguru?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
He had an interview with London Real where he said the biggest movement in the world is people realizing they're in charge of their own life, that they're not here to follow orders. Mm-hmm. And he estimated that at least a quarter of humanity was at the point where they have empowered themselves to be in charge of their life. if you look back, it started with the Renaissance, and it's picked up steam with the end of colonialism, the end of slavery, women's liberation, all of the movements in the world where people are saying, hey, I'm as important and authentic a human being as you are living on this deep empowerment to the individual. So it's tuning into that. Then I have the dialogue with them about how do you know what's best for you? I give everybody the 5 stars. Most people look at it and put it away. It's been a great mystery to me why some people pick up meditation and really go as fast as they can with it, and others leave it. My sister has been bringing the same problems to me for 45 years, and I haven't been able to get her into meditation. And yet she's grown in her own little ways. That some of the things we're talking about empowering, about trusting, people get it each in their own way. So I've learned not to push people. I lived in a commune in the Himalayas with the same people from 1986 to 2007, with the same 30 people, with an enlightened teacher who was Osho's personal secretary, this guy, Yoga Chinmaya. And I saw how slowly all of us changed. And how the change isn't that you change a different personality or habits, but there's something that you're a much more relaxed version of yourself. You don't take yourself so seriously anymore. You're more loving. You're more there. So that has helped me be very patient with people rather than, I'm available, I'm not pushing you.
Essentially, you're holding space for them to come to the realization of their true intention, and it's not really interjecting. It's suggesting avenues where they can bring their ideas and thoughts through, but you're really just offering them that platform to express and to heal through understanding themselves. Because like you were saying, we all have that deep wisdom. And I think that muscle, that recognition of that deep wisdom is so clouded by everything, what our parents say, what our
the hypnosis called our society, like it's really.
But
it's persistent.
There's our facilitator for ayahuasca. He says it's a lot of it is really just about undoing the conditioned mind and removing these entanglements, these knots in our psyche that are kind of not blinding us, but like distracting us from that deep wisdom, that deep knowing that we keep talking about. And for all the listeners, that deep knowing, there's no label to give it. So we're just knowing is the closest thing I think we could speak of it. But it's just that wisdom, that internal wisdom, and removing these patterns and conditions allow us to be a lot more, to have a clear message of that. And I think that's a beautiful role that you play as a facilitator, as a psychotherapist, is just to empower your patient or whoever's in front of you to come to that realization, Yeah.
It's empowering for sure. And that facilitator, he's one of those people that you mentioned for 100%. Like he has such a space for people that no matter how afraid I am of the ceremony or the medicine or anything, it's all me. It bounces around and always comes back to me. He absorbs none of it, or he absorbs all of it. I don't know how to express it, And he's like, when you say that forgetting, that unlearning, I've heard that a million times, especially through like Buddhism. I really understood it once I met that guy, because he seems like so pure. There's something so innocent and so empty, but he's also so present and so intelligent. He's also there's like a flow about him. And it just seems like so much is not arising in him that he ends up being so capable in the present, in the moment. He's so versatile and adaptive and useful. and calm and happy and whatever you need, I guess, whatever's called for in the moment. And it's inspiring to meet people like that.
And I think that comes to your point where you were saying, like, you can have all the credentials, you can have this, and this, but if that sense of feeling with your facilitator is not there, or that vibe is not there, you can't learn authenticity or fake authenticity. Like that's a language. I don't even know what language it is, but you can recognize instantly someone's authentic or not. It's just like this sixth sense we all have. And for some, it's so powerful. And for others, it's just like a little gut feeling that they may have ignored, but it's there for all of us. And when you recognize that in someone, the medicine or whatever you're experiencing is going to just be tenfold, because that trust that those doors are both open, the channel is there. And, you know, if it's not a pure channel, if there's not an authentic or real facilitator, it's going to muddy your experience and potentially cause more harm. Yeah.
I can feel you, and I'm right with you.
Thank you for that.
Well, we want to respect your time. I don't know if Nate said, like, you know, about an hour and a half. It's already been about an hour 20, I think, or an hour 10. Do you have a bit more time? And we could just jazz a bit more about some random things about your life.
Whatever you guys, I'm here to respond. I don't have any agenda, but go ahead.
Oh, awesome. I'm personally, I'm just curious. I mean, you're a fascinating individual. You know, we've been talking about the kind of lack of self. So I feel almost silly coming back to the 3D, if you will. But I'm curious about. First of all, it's fascinating that you spend time with Osho. Spend time is not even the right word. Like, you really took him in, and he took you in a lot of ways. And I guess we would need a whole other podcast probably to get into all of that. But I am curious, like,
let me give you one thing.
Please.
This fellow Swami Chinmaya, who was enlightened, his personal secretary, I lived with him for from 86 till he left the body in 2019, I was with him. He said 20 years ago, Osho is as available today as he was when he was in the body, as both an energy and a moment-to-moment guiding intelligence. And I've been looking into that mystery. What is it? It's not this old guy with long white hair and fabulous clothes, but what is it that's available for all of us, for anybody who's open to it? And for all seekers, it's, who knows what the beings and forces in the universe are that are trying to help us. It's our authentic letting go, surrender, and opening that allows it to come in and help us find our unique, each person's got a unique path.
Mm-hmm.
And the times are changing, like Dylan said, man. It was a lot more effort 50 years ago to get into this stuff. Whereas now, nobody knows what's real anymore. Mm-hmm. The ideas of what the past meant and what the future is going to be, everybody's fucked up. I mean, the whole trucker thing is an example of how widespread the anxiety about where it's going and what's right is about. So it's easier to change now, to relax and tune in to the mysterious guidance than it's ever been.
Such a powerful point, because our facilitator we keep referring back to is, I was talking to him not long ago, and he said, like, in these moments right now, with everything so on the table and in front of you, it is the perfect opportunity to achieve a high state of mind, because it's all exposed, it's all in front of you. All these anxieties and stresses, all these are bubbled to the surface. And if you sit and observe, it offers you a great opportunity to really heal some deep stuff, and to just see things for what they really are.
I interrupted you. I'm sorry. Please finish your thought. Sam.
I forgot my thought. Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of fed into what I was saying though, like, and this as well, you know, like there's kind of this raw energy to existence itself, and people like Osho, Sadhguru, and Ramdas, they're smart enough or aware enough to say, I'm always going to be here. Say my name and you'll feel my presence, you know, if that's what you need to call it. But you don't need that. It's everywhere, it's all the time, you know, and there is a kind of collective ketamine trip going on right now for a lot of people, where things are being unblocked or blocked so hard sometimes that you can't help but notice it. And that might be just as good sometimes to do the work, you know, to see to see, you know, where the energy can go, what the energy is. You know, when Sadhguru says, say my name, you know, and I'll be there for you, I don't need to be there physically. Or like you said about Osho, like, it not only tells you, I mean, if you can test it out, you can feel it for yourself, you know, you can have that presence, use the 5 stars if you have to, and really just go into that knowing. But it lets you know, I mean, it gives you a gift in understanding what is possible, but not just for them, you know, for the enlightened ones or whatever, or having a trip and meeting the Buddha or Jesus, like you said, or thinking you are these people. It's knowing, it's like, what am I capable of? What is my presence made of, that it will linger when the body is gone? What was it before? What is it after? And what is it now? What am I now in this kind of ever presentness, you know? And it's intoxicating. It swirls, you know, and it can be dizzying. And I mean, it's hard to come off it at that point, you know. Like I said, I'm curious about like your time with Osho. You know, there was this documentary on Netflix, and as someone who was personally like there at that time, like I'd be curious to know your impressions and stuff. But it sounds like you're just, I don't know, like it almost feels pointless to ask at this point, because as far as you're concerned, he's here with you now, you know. So is there I guess, yeah, like what let me ask you something then. What bothers you? Do you feel does anything bug you? Does anything get to you at this point? You know, in your wisdom, in your age, in your teachings, in your quote unquote enlightenment at this point, like what drives you? What brings you to the next thing? Are there other substances like ketamine? Do you just do what's in front of you? Are you just kind of marching through the isness of life? Like,
I had COVID last August, and it was a fantastic meditation retreat. I was flat on my ass for 2 weeks. I lost 20 pounds. I didn't see anybody. I wasn't interested. And it, like, I dropped a whole different level inside. And one of the things that came to me was, the world is perfect. Evolution is happening in just the right way. You've spent your whole life with the idea that it's broken and you got to fix it. You can stop that now. If there's anything for you to do, you'll get the message in the moment and you'll do it.
yeah,
It's so simple,
So,
but
things just come to me. Like, I didn't do any preparation in particular for this interview. Yesterday I saw these about 7 or 8 depressed people of one sort or another in my practice. 3 of them were ketamine intakes, and the other were medical marijuana recertifications and such. And everybody was suffering from one kind of depression or another. They were lonely, they had chronic pain, this, that. And I came home, and somehow I had gotten in synchrony too much with their pain. But I did my 10 Tibetans, these exercises I do at the end of each day. And it processed what came, and I had a clarity about what depression and blocking our energy is that I've been thinking about for 50 years. It all of a sudden came together in time to share with you guys now. I have no idea how these synchronies in existence work. I know I'm not doing them. I just sometimes happy, sometimes blue. Glad that I ran into you. I'm a stranger and I'm only passing through. I forget whose song that was, but I'm an old 60s guy. And the punchlines always come to me as songs.
I love it. I got music in my head all the time, and it lends itself to synchronicity. You know, these people spend hours trying to write the right song, and then it just adds as a catalyst for some good ideas for you, like 30 years later or something. It's amazing.
I was involved with a group doing research in the late 1960s, early 70s at Bronx State Hospital, where we looked at human communication from an ethological standpoint. Like, how do these creatures really behave? If we're from another planet, how do we understand? So we took movies at 96 frames a second, and we looked at them many times. And what we found is people beat synchronously 46 beats a second when they're in communion with each other. If you take 2 psychotherapy sessions of the same family with the same therapist, 5 weeks apart, and you put them on 2 screens, the major postural shifts and changes of who's speaking, who isn't, are identical 5 weeks apart.
Wow.
That the essential human communication is an energetic, synchronous communion. And then the words and thoughts are the frosting on the cake. But we've never been able to get this really published because it so blows the current top-down understanding of what we're about. What it says is all animal communication, including people, is first and primarily a synchrony of mysterious energies. We can see the results of this synchrony. We can't see the energies. We have no idea what they are. If you're authentic, and this was really before I got into meditation, it blew my mind. So I've come to, if you trust yourself, if you be authentic with yourself, use the tools we talked about today or whatever other tools you come up with, you've got it. You just have to let yourself be aware of what you got. You don't have to strive so much for it. You have to relax, let go, and allow what you already know to become conscious.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Okay, so let's
Thank
go
you.
for that. How old are you guys?
Sorry?
How old are you guys?
I'm 29.
I'm 33, actually.
You're losing your hair a little already.
Don't say this.
You look older than 29.
Yeah.
He's definitely wise beyond his years.
Well, you both are.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
And that's part of how the times are changing. I got grandchildren who are, let's see, Corey's now 11 and Milo is 9. And these kids are so wise and so creative in ways that I know I wasn't, or their parents weren't. back then. So I really feel that the times are changing. And if you can just relax and tune into it, it'll let us know what to do.
Yeah. And I think conversations like these and beautiful souls like yourself and the treasures you have to offer everyone, I think it helps in that shift. And, you know, someone who listens to this episode and just gets inspired or just gains some understanding, that's what we can all do as servants to this truth, you know, is to help push it forward, is just by having these conversations and being authentic and harnessing that inner wisdom in any form and just sharing it. Because I think a big factor of the growth and the next stage forward is about sharing, about giving and, you know, and receiving. But when you learn these deeper understandings or recognize it, you can't help but want to share. It's not yours to contain. So I'm really like grateful and appreciative that we just had this beautiful conversation with you, and we're connected through Charles, and to hear you is just such an honor. Thank you.
One last thing that's really important to be aware of. I've come to see that if you make eye contact and allow the energy communion, even thousands of miles away, there's a psychic communion between us. That what the internet is doing to people or making available is so beyond the official thinking about it. I can do energy. I can feel human energy. So I used to feel people with PTSD have got a fire over their head. People who are depressed, they got a dead spot here. ADHD's got a dead spot here. Stuff like that. So with the COVID thing, I had to do some remote stuff. And I found that if I have somebody run their hand over their head in South America or Europe, I can feel it the same way as if they're right in front of me. And that tells me that we're all making psychic communions with each other, even if we're unaware of it. So these kind of podcasts and the Facebooking and Skyping and all that we're doing, don't underestimate the potential of how much authentic communion is available with it. It's not just the words.
Yeah, I think it's a maybe like a materialistic way to usher in people who might resist those feelings, to share that energy. That's real, you know, even if this wasn't there, but it's so much easier with it, especially for people who are used to it. And then it opens your heart, it opens you to that experience, you know. And I mean, it's coming, man. It seems it's coming, you know. It's growing. More and more people are talking like this, and
Absolutely.
it's exciting. Yeah, like it's like magic. It's like we don't know what it is because it's like so old that it's new again. But I feel it now, and I feel it with a lot of people, with everyone I've spoken to, and that intellectual wants it to be practical, and I want to learn some technique or something. But I'm just trying to. I'm going to take your advice as well as I can and just kind of go with that flow. But you were saying something? I'm sorry.
I was just saying, we've been saying that since podcast episode 1, that there's a shift, and it's more present now than back then. And it's not even that long ago. 2 years ago, we started this thing, and fast forward to today, as crazy as the environment's getting and the way people's anxieties are rising, there's a huge shift happening, and it's so prevalent and obvious to see now. I don't know where it's heading, but I know there's something. So relax and observe. It all sorts itself out.
Last advertisement for Osho. His main method, in his own words, is listening to his discourses. All the other methods are for the people who can't listen. You can listen to all 4,000 of his discourses free on oshoworld.com.
Oh wow! I didn't know that, actually. That's amazing.
Very nice. I'll put a link and I'll check that out.
Yeah, that's weekend plans.
Of those 4,000, the ones that he always wanted translated first into any language is the series called Tantra, the Supreme Understanding, which is his discourses on Tilopa's Song of Mahamudra, where he goes into that identification is the root cause of all suffering. And that manifesting, how to put it, what do you say exactly? Embodiment without hope is the supreme accomplishment. That just being here and enjoying the moment without hoping for anything else or worrying about something else. Because every thought is a two-sided coin. Every hope has got a fear.
Mm-hmm.
Every desire has got an expectation that you're not going to get it.
Yes.
And he goes into the whole depth of the whole trip in these 10 discourses. Tantra, the Supreme Understanding. Thank you so much, guys. I really enjoyed this.
Oh,
likewise.
Yo. So beautiful.
Yeah, I'm happy you're happy. Yeah, that's like, please come back. It would be really fun to talk to you again.
Okay.
And we'd like at some point, I'd love to come down to Florida and see you guys and meet you in the real physical reality, even though this is still physical reality, just one step closer.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you so much again.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Ferber. Chi-Chi.
Yeah.